So, Abhinav, three questions. The first one, you have spoken at length about the impact of mental health on many occasions, including to us. If I could ask you, how do you think social media toxicity and trolls can impact mental health of people and families who don't have a chance to put out their side of the story in front of all the abuse and in turns get destroyed? While social media is a necessity and all of us acknowledge it, how does one deal with such abuse and what impact can it have on people going forward?
I think, firstly, it's important to acknowledge that social media has its positives. It really offers really an unparalleled level of opportunities for engagement, specifically for athletes. But I think it can also expose them to severe toxicity, especially when they are not able to share their perspective in certain aspects, or it's just very one-sided. And this real one-sided onslaught, I think, can lead to significant mental health issues. It can lead to stress, it can lead to anxiety, and even depression. Really, from an athlete's standpoint, I think maintaining mental fortitude is crucial. I think it is very important to prioritize mental health, perhaps by setting certain boundaries on social media use and really focusing on perhaps constructive interactions. And finally, I know I'm being idealistic here, Boria, but I think public discourse also needs to shift. That we need to see much more empathy. We need to see much less judgment. And I think these are aspects which can mitigate some of the negative impacts of such environments. But having said that, I don't think there is an easy fix here. There is no easy solution, and I think it is the responsibility of everybody who's engaged in social media to show a degree of responsibility.
As a follow up, it will always be that athletes have greater currency against anyone, whether it is a journalist, whether it is a coach, a mentor, an administrator, whoever it is. And, whatever an athlete says, if he says I'm wrong, is considered gospel. There is no second sides to the story. There are no other person is heard. How do you look at such a scenario, and is there anything that one can do to address it?
Yeah, I mean, athletes do carry a significant degree of influence, especially on social media, and which can at times sometimes overshadow any other narrative. So I think it's for us athletes, and I think for the community in general, this responsibility really should not be taken lightly. I think we are public figures, and as public figures, we should strive to really engage responsibly, recognizing that the weight of our words that they carry. And I think it is important, really important for the whole sports community on a whole to really encourage dialogue that acknowledges multiple viewpoints and fosters a degree of understanding. I think as athletes and as a community, we stand for certain values. Sport stands for certain values. And I think that must perpetuate in every discourse. And social media is, of course, in present times and in present day, an important way of communication. So I think that how we act responsibly on our usage there, what we put out, I think is something that we, as a community, we must be very wary of and do it with a degree of responsibility.
Finally, and I will ask you one of something that I have faced myself when I faced my own social media trial. How does one protect children? I mean, when something happened with me, and I've written a book on it. My 8-year-old daughter was abused and was called a monster. My mother obviously was abused and called names and abused. Her blood sugar went up, which sort of has impacted her health, which perhaps will never get back. My wife was abused and called every possible name on social media. They are not even involved. How does one, and yet they were sort of abused. How does one protect families who are not even part of this discourse in that sense?
Again, it's a very difficult situation and a difficult scenario. I think really the intrusion of social media into private lives can be obviously particularly challenging. And as you said, it was challenging for you and your family. And when it affects family members who are not in the public eye, it can be really, really tough, and protecting them requires really, I think, careful management of personal information. All what I can say is maybe a proactive use of, I don't know, privacy settings on social media platforms. Athletes and public figures need to be really careful and vigilant on how their online behavior might inadvertently expose their loved ones to harassment or cyberbullying. But I think the larger point I think I'd like to make is that I think there should be a more collective effort and a push for stronger regulations, and perhaps more tools should be made available by social media companies and platforms to really protect individuals from unwarranted attacks. Really trying to ensure that families can really remain out of this harmful reach of online abuse. But of course, it's a difficult situation, but it is something that as time passes and there is going to be continuous technology is going to continuously evolve and even immerse more into our lives. And I think the human side of everything must always be prioritized. And I think when the human side has to be prioritized, we also need to acknowledge that as humans, we are all not going to be perfect. And we are all going to, as humans, we are flawed, and every human is flawed in a certain way. So there are going to be behaviors which I think that need to be taken into consideration, and there should be enough protection and tools made available which can perhaps protect individuals from this kind of abuse which happens online.
I just want to make this final point, Abhinav, that in the last 2 years, and I've acknowledged that in the book multiple times, you have been there. You didn't judge me. You did not make a prejudgment. You just said what you had to say, and you handheld me when I was breaking down. And I've acknowledged that in the book at multiple places. I'm acknowledging it here that that's something that I will always hold on to: the protection, the support, the mental support, and the continuous push, in the sense that I have to stay true to what I believe in, which I will never be able to pay back. So, and again, you did not take any sides, not my side, not the other side, and that's how it should be. But you were there. You were there not to pronounce me guilty without knowing my side, and that's something I will hold on. I have said that in the book, and my family and I, on behalf of everyone, I acknowledge that. Thank you very, very much for joining.
Thank you.